right, so here we go. My talk is going to be a little more upbeat. We're going to talk a bit about sort of hope within the despair, right? It's a bit of a cliche. My first slide is a total cliche when it comes up. Looks like a bonus 20 seconds. But what we want to talk about is we're living in a time of cliche. We're living in a time of hyperbole. The earthquake happened, guys. We lived through it. And we're very lucky to be here during this time. It's an important and powerful time. It's also an opportunity for us to rewrite the book on how earthquakes go in, quote, developing nations, unquote. So it looks like I'm going to have to, like, freestyle here. That's me, right? All right. So, yeah, see, hope within the despair, right? We're starting with, like, a bit of hyperbole, a bit of stereotype. But this is what's happening. This is our time in Nepal. This is your time to define the future of this country. And so I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to tell 3 stories that I witnessed when I was here. But first I'm going to kind of talk about where I was during the earthquake, because that's all we ever talk about now and we'll ever talk about for the next year. I was up in this village of Chowdi Karka. It's about 20 minutes south of Lukla. I was up there for a puja. I used to live up there, and I was doing that thing that foreigners say they hate but really love, and Nepalis say they love but really hate, which is wearing ethnic dress, right? So I was there. We were having a puja. This was taken at like 11 a.m. We were drinking chang. This was taken about an hour later, right? And so you guys all know, like, some things were awesome, and then things were weird and scary and terrifying, and the world did shit the world is not supposed to do. And we came downstairs, and the whole village that we were in, every house was destroyed like this. And we all stood outside, and it started to rain, and we were in a circle, and we were listening to radio in Nepal. And they talked about the avalanche at base camp. And then someone had the courage. They risked their life, and they went back into that house we saw earlier and brought out the big drum of chang. We all got drunk. And so the next morning with a hangover, I walked up to Lukla about 5 a.m. so I couldn't sleep. And when I got there, I ran into the local youth club, who I'd known when I lived there. And we all set up, they said that the injured were coming down from base camp, and we set up a triage hospital in the Lukla airport. And it's this amazing display. We had foreign doctors, we had Nepali doctors, and we all got together and we treated 70 patients on one helicopter after another, came down from base camp, and we saved so many lives that day. And the amazing thing about that was these people who had lost their homes, everyone who had gone through this earthquake, we were all fucked up, we're all traumatized, and we were all there saving lives. It was the most amazing display of people coming together that I had seen in my life, despite the most horrendous injuries I'd ever seen in my life. One of the amazing things we saw then was Goma Air. It was the only domestic airline flying that day. And these guys were flying medevac flights up to Lukla. And I caught a ride back on the last plane. And this was total cowboy shit. I was holding on to the back of the pilot's seat and then had to run back and keep treating these guys as we flew back to Kathmandu. We got to Kathmandu, no ambulances. We had to load people into trucks and send them into hospitals. So I got back to Kathmandu. My house was destroyed. This wasn't my house, but something like that. And it was a real drag. And we didn't really know what to do. And a group of us got together at this little place called Yellow House. It's a bed and breakfast in Sanipa. And we all thought, well, what can we do? And there was 10 of us that first night. The next day, 20 of us got together. We started sourcing information off of quake maps. And suddenly there was 100 people, 200 people were coming to Yellow House to go out and to help Nepal. And these people were by and large Nepalis. And what we did was we decided we had one rule, and that one rule was do it yourself. And so we had ideas, people posted them on the wall, people came, they got phone numbers, they got places to go, they communicated through Facebook, through WhatsApp. And people went out, people were coming in and coming out, and Nepalis were doing this themselves. The UN wasn't there. The army wasn't there. It was Nepalis making a difference. And it was such an honor to be a part of that. It was one of the most amazing things I've seen. And so in the weeks and months after the earthquake, Yellow House was only one of so many initiatives across this country. And we sent out 269 relief missions. The thing about those relief missions that was amazing is that we didn't need interpreters. We didn't need road maps. We didn't need those dorky little, helmets that everybody wears, right? We had Nepali doctors who spoke the language. And it was this incredible, it was the most incredible thing I've been involved in my life, was to see this beautiful organization around a certain cause. And it was incredible. The Yellow House group, in the month after the quake, distributed 10,000 tarps. The UN got involved. They started giving us tarps from UNHCR. A certain embassy that shall not be named gave us 2,000 bottles of fizzy water, right? So you can imagine how that went, right? So like all these people in the villages who are used to drinking cuoco pani, right? You get this warm jar of Italian fizzy. Oh, I mentioned the embassy. fizzy water, right? Wasn't such a good idea. And a lot of foreign aid ideas are kind of like that, guys. But at the end of the day, Yellow House, or the Himalayan Volunteer Relief Group, was the 4th largest distributor of relief efforts after the quake. That's awesome. And the total budget for Yellow House was less than one expatriate salary for a lot of the other groups on that list. Not to mention the cost of shipping 2,000 bottles of fizzy water over here, right? And so to talk about some of the weird ideas that happened in Nepal, one of them was these ospreys, right? You guys remember those? Fucking transformers, right? These things are so cool. These things could save anybody. But they come to Nepal and they're maybe not so useful, right? Their total payload was 300 kilograms. These things were made to fly in Iraq. They flew to Charikot. They flew a bunch of roofs off a bunch of houses, right? These things are $72 million airplanes. $72 million came to Nepal and they distributed 300 kilos of aid. Everywhere they went, you can see in the distance, there was a road. They went to places where they had roads. So I'm going to introduce you to another machine that's going to rebuild Nepal that's better than these guys. The combined payload of these 3 people, of these 3 porters in eastern Nepal, is 300 kilograms, right? These guys can do what the Ospreys can do. They can go off-road. They can go at night. And their price tag is invaluable, right? And that's how this country is going to get rebuilt. It's not going to be with these guys. It's not going to be, right, with the Ospreys. One thing that you notice in the donor conference, it's like towards a resilient Nepal. Fuck that. Nepal is resilient. It's not like we have to get there. It already is. And that's how Nepal is going to change. That's how it's going to get rebuilt, is by people harnessing the power of this country. People like me who aren't from here, we're going to support. And there's one thing you guys got to think about. This is taken in Changanarayan. All of our temples came down, right? You know what that means? It means the deities are loose. It means the gods are out. They got out. They're not in the temples anymore, and they're amongst us. And they're with every single one of you. We have gods on our side. The American Army, Ospreys, bullshit. We've got gods. And that's what's going to rebuild this country and make it better than it was before. Thank you guys, and if you need help, we're going to do it. And I know we're going to get a lot of fizzy water if you guys get thirsty. Just let me know.